The proposal Victoria Sterling stood in the charred remains of what had been her life's work, tears streaming down her soot-stained cheeks. Flame and Fork, the restaurant she had poured every penny and sleepless night into, was nothing but blackened walls and twisted metal. An electrical fire had consumed everything in mere hours, leaving behind only the acrid smell of destruction and shattered dreams. The insurance adjuster's words echoed in her mind like a death sentence. "I'm sorry, Miss Sterling, but the policy doesn't cover electrical fires caused by faulty wiring. It appears to be a pre-existing condition that wasn't disclosed." 6 months of her life, her grandmother's recipes, her life savings all reduced to ash because of outdated wiring she never knew existed. Our phone buzzed with another notification, another bill, another reminder of the debt that was drowning her. The suppliers, the loan payments, the rent on her tiny apartment, everything was due, and she had nothing left to give. Victoria sank onto a piece of debris that had once been her chef's station, burying her face in her hands. "Victoria, honey, you can't stay here forever." Lena Rodriguez, her best friend since culinary school, approached carefully through the rubble. As a nurse at the city's most prestigious hospital, Lena had seen her share of tragedy, but watching her best friends' dreams literally go up in smoke was heartbreaking. "I don't know what else to do, Lena. The banks won't give me another loan. My credit is destroyed. Can't even afford groceries, let alone rebuild this place." Victoria's voice cracked with exhaustion and despair. Lena sat beside her friend, choosing her words carefully. "There might be something. It's unconventional, and you're probably going to hate me for even suggesting it, but hear me out." Victoria looked up with hollow eyes. "Unless you know someone willing to give me $500,000 with no strings attached, I don't think anything can help me now. What if I told you someone is willing to give you $2 million? Lena's voice was barely above a whisper. "But there are strings. Big ones." Victoria stared at her friend in disbelief. "Lena, if this is some kind of joke, now really isn't the time. I'm completely serious. There's a patient at the hospital. Well, not exactly a patient. He owns half the medical wing. Adrian Blackwell. He's looking for someone to carry his child. It's not adoption, not traditional surrogacy. He wants natural conception. One time, with someone intelligent, healthy, and attractive. In exchange, he's offering $2 million. The words hit Victoria like physical blows. "You're suggesting I sell my body to some rich stranger for money?" "I'm suggesting you consider an option that could solve all your problems," Lena said gently. "Adrian Blackwell isn't some creepy old man. He's 35, incredibly successful, and from what I've observed, quite handsome. The arrangement would be completely professional, with legal contracts protecting both parties." Victoria stood, abruptly pacing through the debris. "This is insane. I can't just sleep with someone for money and carry his child." "What kind of person does that make me?" Survivor Lena replied firmly. "A woman who refuses to let circumstances destroy her dreams? Look around, Victoria. You have nothing left except your talent and your determination. This could give you the chance to rebuild, to create something even better than before." The rational part of Victoria's mind recoiled at this suggestion, but desperation was a powerful motivator. $2 million would not only rebuild her restaurant, but establish a culinary empire. She could honor her grandmother's memory and create the kind of legacy she had always dreamed of. "Tell me more about him," Victoria found herself saying, hating that she was even considering this impossible proposition. The agreement 3 days later, Victoria found herself in the opulent offices of Blackwell Technologies, her hands trembling as she smoothed her only professional dress. The building was a monument to success. All glass and steel reaching toward the clouds, making her feel smaller and more insignificant with each passing floor. James Morrison, Adrian's assistant, escorted her to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "Mr. Blackwell will join you momentarily. Can I offer you anything to drink?" "Water, please," Victoria managed, her mouth suddenly dry as sandpaper. When Adrian Blackwell entered the room, Victoria's breath caught in her throat. Lena hadn't been exaggerating about his appearance. Tall and broad-shouldered, he moved with the confident grace of a man accustomed to commanding every room he entered. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and his steel-gray eyes seemed to take in everything. At once, he wore an impeccably tailored suit, that probably cost more than Victoria had ever made in a month. "Miss Sterling," he said, extending his hand. His voice was deep and cultured, with just a hint of warmth beneath the professional exterior. "I thank you for coming. I trust James explained the basic parameters of what I'm proposing." Victoria shook his hand, surprised by the firmness of his grip and the unexpected calluses on his palms. Somehow she had expected softer hands from a man who worked behind a desk. He mentioned some of the details, yes, though I have to admit, I'm still not entirely sure why I'm here. Adrian gestured for her to sit, taking the chair across from her rather than positioning himself behind the intimidating conference table. "You're here because you need something I can provide, and I need something you can give me. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement." "You make it sound like a business transaction," Victoria said, unable to keep the edge from her voice. Adrian's gaze was steady, unflinching. "Done my research, Miss Sterling." "What? Know about the fire, the insurance denial, the mounting debts? I know you're facing bankruptcy and the loss of everything you've worked for. I'm offering you a solution." Victoria felt heat rise in her cheeks. "You investigated me?" "Due diligence. If I'm going to trust someone with bringing my child into the world, I need to know everything about them. Your medical history is excellent. Your intelligence is evident from your culinary training and business plans, and your determination in building a restaurant despite numerous obstacles suggests the kind of character I want passed on to my heir." The clinical way he described her made Victoria's skin crawl, but she couldn't deny the logic behind his approach. "What exactly are you looking for in return for this generous offer?" Adrian leaned forward slightly, his expression intensifying. "I want a child. My child. Conceived naturally, carried to term by someone I trust to take care of themselves during pregnancy. After birth, the child would be legally mine, though you would have reasonable visitation rights if desired." "In the conception part?" Victoria forced herself to ask, though her cheeks burned with embarrassment. "One night, clinical if you prefer, though I've found that approach often proves unsuccessful.
Ow.
The arrangement would be whatever you are comfortable with, within the bounds of achieving our goal." Victoria studied his face, searching for any sign of the predatory behavior she had expected from such a proposal. Instead, she found only calm professionalism and something else, something that looked almost like loneliness in his gray eyes. "Why?" The question slipped out before Victoria could stop herself. Why not find someone the traditional way? Date, fall in love, get married, have children like normal people? Adrian's expression hardened almost imperceptibly. "Because traditional relationships require emotional investment that I'm not prepared to make. My company demands complete focus, and I've found that romantic entanglements tend to complicate both personal and professional objectives. This arrangement provides clarity and defined expectations for both parties." "That sounds incredibly cold," Victoria observed. "Perhaps, but it's honest. I won't make promises I can't keep or pretend feelings I don't have. What I can offer is financial security. It's excellent medical care throughout the pregnancy, and a generous compensation that will allow you to rebuild your life." Victoria was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the city below. "I need time to think about this, of course. Take all the time you need. But know that my offer has an expiration date. I'll leave for London next month on business. If we're going to proceed, it needs to be before then." As Victoria left the building, her mind reeled with the impossibility of what she was considering. Yet as she walked past the ruins of her restaurant later that evening, she couldn't shake the feeling that this might be her only chance at redemption. The complications. Victoria signed the contract on a Tuesday morning, her hands shaking as she put pen to paper. The legal document was thorough, covering every possible scenario, every contingency. It was clinical, cold, and exactly what she had expected from Adrian Blackwell. What she hadn't expected was the nervousness she felt 3 days later as she prepared for what both of them insisted on calling the arrangement. Adrian had booked a suite at the city's most exclusive hotel, neutral territory, that somehow made the whole situation feel less personal and more like the business transaction they both claimed it to be. Victoria arrived at 7, as planned. Adrian was already there, having had room service deliver a dinner that remained largely untouched. He was different outside his office, still composed, but there was an undercurrent of tension she hadn't seen before. "Second thoughts?" he asked, noting her hesitation at the door. "Several," Victoria admitted, stepping inside. "But I'm here." The evening progressed with awkward formality. They talked about inconsequential things, the weather, current events, anything but what they were there to do. Victoria found herself surprised by Adrian's intelligence and dry sense of humor. It was nothing like the cold businessman she had imagined. When it finally happened, it was with unexpected tenderness. Adrian was patient, careful, and surprisingly gentle. For a moment, Victoria forgot this was a transaction and lost herself in the surprising intimacy of the encounter. Afterward, as they lay in the darkened room, Victoria felt a dangerous flutter of emotion. This was supposed to be clinical, businesslike. She wasn't supposed to feel anything. "I should go," she whispered. Adrian's arm tightened around her waist, almost imperceptibly. "Stay, just for tonight." 6 weeks later, Victoria stared at the positive pregnancy test with a mixture of elation and terror. She was going to be a mother. The thought filled her with joy and dread in equal measure. Adrian's reaction was exactly what she had expected: professional satisfaction, with just a hint of something deeper. "I'll have my physician contact you to set up the best possible care." But as the weeks passed, something unexpected began to happen. Adrian started showing up at her doctor's appointments, asking detailed questions about her health, her diet, her stress levels. He insisted on covering not just her medical expenses, but her living costs as well. "You shouldn't be working while pregnant," he said one afternoon, finding her waitressing at a diner to make ends meet while waiting for the insurance money. "I can't just sit around doing nothing for 9 months, Victoria protested. "Then don't. Let me help you plan your new restaurant. Consider it an investment in my child's future." Victoria wanted to refuse, but the offer was too tempting. Soon, she found herself spending hours with Adrian. Not just discussing business plans, but sharing stories. Laughing at his unexpected jokes and finding herself drawn to the man behind the corporate facade. The problem was, she could see he was struggling with the same unwanted feelings. The way he looked at her was changing, becoming softer, more protective. When she caught him staring at her growing belly with wonder rather than clinical interest, she knew they were both in dangerous territory. "This isn't what we agreed to," Victoria said one evening as they sat in his office. Restaurant plans spread between them. Adrian's jaw tightened. "What do you mean?" "You know what I mean?" This, she gestured between them. "We're getting too close. Too involved. This was supposed to be simple." "Nothing about this has been simple," Adrian replied, his voice rough. "I didn't expect... Didn't expect what?" He was quiet for a long moment, then stood abruptly. "I think we should maintain more professional boundaries going forward. For both our sakes." Victoria felt a stab of hurt that surprised her with its intensity. "Fine, professional boundaries it is." But even as they tried to put distance between them, Victoria couldn't shake the feeling that Adrian Blackwell was becoming far more than just the father of her child. And that terrified her more than anything else. Asterisk the revelation, the professional boundaries lasted exactly 2 weeks. Victoria was in her 6th month when the cramping started. She was alone in her apartment, reviewing contractor bids for her new restaurant. When the pain struck her like a lightning bolt, she managed to call 911 before collapsing, her vision blurring as panic overwhelmed her. She couldn't lose the baby. Not now. Not when she had already started to imagine a future that included more than just a business. Adrian arrived at the hospital before the ambulance had even finished unloading her. Victoria would later learn that Lena had called him the moment she saw Victoria's name on the emergency admission list. "Where is she?" His voice cut through the chaos of the emergency room like a blade. "Sir, you'll need to wait. I'm the father," Adrian said, his tone brooking no argument. "Where is she?" Victoria was conscious when he found her, hooked up 2 monitors and 4 lines, her face pale with fear and pain. "Adrian." Her voice was barely a whisper. He was beside her in an instant, taking her hand in both of his. "I'm here. You're going to be okay, both of you?" "The baby is fine," Dr. Sarah Chen, the attending physician, said as she entered the room. "You're experiencing false labor, brought on by stress and dehydration." Nothing that can't be managed with rest and proper care. The relief that flooded through Victoria was so intense it brought tears to her eyes. Adrian's grip on her hand tightened, and she saw her own relief mirrored in his face. However, Dr. Chen continued, I'm concerned about your stress levels. This kind of episode can be dangerous if it continues. You need to avoid any unnecessary anxiety or emotional strain. After the doctor left, Adrian remained by Victoria's bedside, his usual composure completely shattered. I can't do this, he said suddenly. Do what? Pretend that this is just business. Pretend that I don't care about you, about what happens. To you? He ran his hands through his hair, destroying its perfect styling. When Lena called and said you were in the hospital, I've never been so terrified in my life. Victoria stared at him, seeing Adrian Blackwell, the composed, controlled businessman completely undone for the first time since she'd known him. I told myself I could keep this clinical, professional, but I was lying to myself. I've been lying to myself for months. He looked up at her with those steel gray eyes, and Victoria saw something there that made her heart skip. I'm falling in love with you, Victoria. I'm falling in love with you, and I don't know how to handle it. The words hung between them like a bridge Victoria wasn't sure she was ready to cross. Adrian, I know it complicates everything. I know it's not what we agreed to. I can't pretend anymore, especially not when I almost lost you tonight. Victoria felt tears streaming down her cheeks. This is all wrong. We had rules, boundaries. This was supposed to be simple. It's nothing. About you has ever been simple, Adrian said, bringing her hand to his lips. You've turned my entire world upside down, made me want things I never thought I wanted, made me feel things I never thought I could feel. What are you saying? Saying, I want more than just one night, more than just a business arrangement. I want you, Victoria. All of you. I want us to be a family, a real family. Victoria's heart was pounding so hard she was sure the monitors would start beeping. And if I say no? If I stick to our original agreement? Pain flashed across Adrian's face. Then I'll honor our contract. I'll take my child, and I'll pay you what we agreed, and I'll try to figure out how to live with the biggest mistake of my life. What mistake? Thinking I could let you go. Victoria closed her eyes, overwhelmed by the intensity of his confession and her own conflicted feelings. She had spent months trying to ignore the growing connection between them, telling herself it was just pregnancy hormones and gratitude. But lying in that hospital bed, seeing the raw fear and love in Adrian's eyes, she couldn't deny the truth any longer. She was falling in love with him too. I need time, she whispered. This changes everything. I know, Adrian said, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. Take all the time you need. Just know that whatever you decide, I'll be here. For you and for our child. As Victoria drifted off to sleep, still holding Adrian's hand, she realized that the simple business arrangement she had agreed to had become the most complicated and terrifying situation of her life, and she had no idea what she was going to do about it. The choice Victoria spent the next month in a state of emotional turmoil. Adrian kept his word, giving her space while remaining supportive and present. He attended every doctor's appointment, helped with the restaurant planning, and treated her with a careful tenderness that made her heart ache. But he never pushed, never demanded an answer to his confession. He simply waited, and his patience was somehow more overwhelming than any pressure could have been. The truth was, Victoria was terrified. She had fallen in love with Adrian Blackwell, completely and irrevocably. But love hadn't been part of their deal, and she didn't know if she could trust it. What if this was just some twisted form of nesting instinct? What if he changed his mind after the baby was born? The answer came in the most unexpected way. Victoria was in her 8th month, putting the finishing touches on her new restaurant, Sterling's Kitchen, when she overheard a conversation that changed everything. She had arrived early to meet with the contractor and was in the back office when she heard voices in the main dining room. ... Think you're making a mistake, Adrian? The voice belonged to Adrian's business partner, Marcus Webb. This whole situation has gotten out of hand. You're letting your emotions cloud your judgment. My personal life is not up for discussion, Adrian replied, his voice cold. When it affects our business, it is. You've been distracted for months. The London deal fell through because you refused to travel. The Morrison account is asking questions about your domestic situation. Victoria pressed herself against the wall, knowing she should leave but unable to move. The Morrison account can go to hell, Adrian said flatly. And so can you, if you think I'm going to abandon Victoria now. She's not your responsibility, Adrian. You have a contract. Honor it, take the child, and move on. You're Adrian Blackwell. For God's sake, you can have any woman you want. I don't want any woman. Adrian's voice was quieter now, but Victoria could hear every word. I want Victoria. I want her smile when she talks about her grandmother's recipes. I want her laugh when she thinks I'm not looking. I want her fierce determination and her gentle heart. I want to wake up next to her for the rest of my life. Victoria's breath caught in her throat. And the baby, Marcus pressed. What if she takes the money and runs? What if she decides she wants full custody? Then I'll fight for my child, but I won't fight Victoria. I love her too much to hurt her, even if it means losing everything. You're going to regret this. It's the only thing I regret is waiting so long to tell her how I feel. It's the only thing I regret is making her think this was ever just business for me. Victoria heard footsteps approaching and quickly made her way to the back exit, her heart pounding. She drove home in a daze, Adrian's words echoing in her mind. I love her too much to hurt her, even if it means losing everything. That evening, Victoria called Adrian. Can you come over? We need to talk. He arrived within 20 minutes, looking nervous for the first time since she'd known him. Victoria, if this is about what Marcus said, you heard me? Some of it enough. Victoria gestured for him to sit, her hand shaking slightly. I've been thinking about what you said at the hospital, about wanting more than our original agreement. Adrian's jaw tightened. And I'm scared, Adrian, terrified, actually. I've never felt like this about anyone before. What we have, it's real, isn't it? It's not just the baby or the circumstances or some weird psychological thing. It's real, Adrian said firmly. More real than anything I've ever felt in my life. Then I need you to know something. I love you too. I've been fighting it for months, telling myself it was impossible, but I can't fight it anymore. I love you, Adrian Blackwell, and it scares me to death. The relief and joy that flooded Adrian's face was like watching the sun rise. Victoria, ... But I need something from you, she continued. I need you to promise me that if this doesn't work out, if we can't make this crazy situation into something real and lasting, you won't use our child as a weapon. That whatever happens between us, we'll put the baby first. I promise, Adrian. Said without hesitation, I promise you that our child will always come first, no matter what. And I promise you that I will spend every day for the rest of my life proving that this is real, that what I feel for you is real. He stood up, crossing to kneel beside her chair. Victoria Sterling, I'm asking you to marry me. Not because of the baby, not because of our contract, but because I can't imagine my life without you in it. Will you marry me? Victoria looked down at this powerful, successful man kneeling before her, his heart in his eyes, and felt the last of her walls crumble. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. When Adrian kissed her, it was with all the passion and tenderness of a man who had found his heart's desire against all odds. And Victoria finally understood that sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin with the most impossible circumstances. 3 months later, Victoria gave birth to a healthy baby girl. As she held her daughter for the first time, with Adrian beside her, tears streaming down his face, she realized that what had started as a business arrangement had become the greatest love story of her life. Sterling's Kitchen opened 6 months later to rave reviews, but Victoria barely noticed. She was too busy planning her wedding to the man who had offered her a contract and ended up giving her his heart. And as she walked down the aisle toward Adrian, their daughter sleeping peacefully in Lena's arms, Victoria knew that sometimes the most unexpected proposals lead to the most extraordinary love stories. The end.